What if the reflexes that forged Lewis Hamilton's 7-title empire at Mercedes are now the very reflexes bleeding tenths from every lap in Ferrari Red? Picture the Silver Arrow legend, 2 decades deep into instinctive driving, discovering that those silver-born habits have become his newest rival. That irony echoes through Maranello, far from TV lenses, captured only in rows of telemetry. It begins with Mercedes' old brake traces and a scarlet SF-25 that refuses to obey its most decorated pilot. Scroll back 2 seasons to Mercedes' turbulent W14. The car's porpoising punished every sudden input. George Russell, fresh, methodical, tamed it by halving his pressure ramp and delaying turn-in. Qualifying ended 19 Mercedes in his favour, not because Hamilton lost raw speed, but because his trademark jab clashed with a chassis desperate for serenity. Brackley analysts mapped the same spike we see today, coloured it red, and begged for modulation. Hamilton adjusted, won Brazil, yet the root reflex lingered. Paint the car scarlet, and the pattern repeats. Whenever Hamilton hammers the pedal, the SF-25 flinches. Fans whisper about twilight years. Engineers whisper about ride height windows. Every stint Hamilton records in the SF-25 delivers a confession the timing tower can't soften. His brake pressure trace spikes 20 metres sooner and 40 bar harder than anyone else in the garage. Overlay that line with Charles Leclerc's and the contrast slaps you awake. Leclerc's graph rises like a gentle hill, peaks, then melts away in a smooth fade. Hamilton's looks like an alpine ascent followed by a cliff-edge plunge. That punch catapults weight onto the nose, unloads the rear, and scrambles the underfloor airflow the SF-25 lives on. Data engineers have tried everything to mask it. Rearward brake bias, softer pedal links, even caliper pistons designed to dull the initial bite. Nothing sticks, because the trace isn't hardware, it's software written into the man himself. The car responds as it was born to. Punish abruptness, reward finesse. For Hamilton, the printout is less a readout and more a mirror reflecting 2 decades of habit. And that mirror isn't kind. From the first day a teenage Hamilton climbed into a national kart, victory followed a simple equation. Brake as late and as hard as a rubber would allow, then trust your right foot. McLaren sharpened that edge, and Mercedes turned it into gospel. Their high-rake, mechanically grippy cars begged for decisive inputs, and Hamilton obliged. Punch and pivot, engineers called it. Between 2014 and 2020, that reflex minted 6 championships and a highlight reel of late brake miracles. Fast forward to 2025 and the rulebook has flipped. Ground effect tunnels glue today's cars to the tarmac only when weight transfers stay whisper soft. The steering wheel vibrates at the mere thought of a spike. Hamilton's old reflex now behaves like a cheat code written for the wrong console, one the new physics refuses to read. Neuroscientists note that a movement repeated 500,000 times sinks from conscious control into basal ganglia autopilot. Hamilton is long past that. Telling him to brake softer is like telling a concert pianist to press C-sharp with less emotion. Easy to say, brutal to execute. Watch Charles Leclerc in slow motion, and you'll see a man conducting a string quartet. His right foot brushes the brake, pressure builds in a lazy wave, and the platform settles before he even twitches the wheel. Steering corrections remain within 5 degrees. Tyre temperatures stay symmetrical. Heart rate telemetry floats under 140 beats per minute. Over a Grand Prix stint, that calm translates to free lap time, while Hamilton wrestles a sliding rear that chews rubber and drains battery charge. Inside the cockpit, Leclerc's radio chatter is a gentle murmur punctuated by differential tweaks. Engineers call him a platform whisperer, someone who trusts aerodynamic throughput more than mechanical muscle. Crucially, that style dovetails with the SF-25's flat ride philosophy. The result shows not only on timing screens, but in physiology, clarity of thought for strategy when Hamilton is busy catching slides. Think of a modern F1 car as an upside-down jet wing. Venturi tunnels beneath the floor create suction that sticks the chassis to the asphalt, but only if ride height stays inside a 3mm envelope. Stomp the brake, the nose dives beyond that window, airflow stalls, the rear snaps like a kite with its string cut. Ferrari's SF-25 amplifies the danger. Super stiff suspension preserves tunnel efficiency but punishes abrupt transfers. Slow motion footage from Bahrain caught sparks showering as Hamilton braked for turn 1, evidence the plank slapped the track. Raise ride height and you surrender downforce everywhere else. Soften the rear and tyre temps skyrocket. Sim runs return to the same ultimatum. If the driver can't soften, the lap can't stabilise. Inside Ferrari's driver-in-loop simulator, silence has become ritual. Hamilton freezes a brake trace on screen, closes his eyes, and rehearses a gentler squeeze until muscle fibers twitch on command. He's cancelled Fashion Week appearances, swapped red carpets for sports psychology drills, and flown in a MotoGP coach renowned for remapping limb timing. And each tendon is treated like legacy code. Identify, patch, stress test. His day starts with kart laps at dawn, chassis set soft, mistakes exaggerated. Mid-morning brings visualization therapy paced by a metronome, ticking at his ideal pressure ramp. After lunch, high-speed cameras capture his foot in super slow motion, hunting micro-twitches. Evenings return to the sim, Leclerc's inputs ghosted as a transparent shadow he must overlay. Barcelona testing offered proof. 1 lap within a tenth of Leclerc, while matching his pressure curve 85% of the time. The final 15% is Everest, but a recent renaissance hints at a path. Carlos Sainz exited Ferrari with polite smiles and faint disappointment. Pundits called it exile. Williams saw raw data, a driver capable of surgical modulation. Paired with a chassis that demanded precisely that, he stunned the paddock, qualifying 4th under Bahrain's lights and standing on the Melbourne podium 2 weeks later. His secret? Brake modulation so gradual it looked like slow motion, allowing airflow to stay glued and tyre temps to stay calm. Off camera, Sainz admits he rebuilt his style watching 1980s turbo replays, cars that spat back at the slightest surge. He practiced on sims with exaggerated latency, training anticipation over reaction. Williams now circulates that case study, proof that muscle memory can be rewritten in a single winter. For Hamilton, Sainz's renaissance is more than feel-good PR. It's living evidence that biology bends when determination leans hard enough. Lewis Hamilton's real rival isn't Charles Leclerc or the stopwatch. It's the code etched into his own hands and feet. Crack that loop and the title fight flips overnight. Fail, and the most decorated driver of the hybrid era risks ending his scarlet chapter with a painfully human footnote. The pivot, when a jagged spike becomes a graceful curve, could surface next week at Imola or hide through a season of near misses. But whenever it arrives, the shift will feel instant, even though it was forged in months of unseen toil. There's something magnetic about greatness under reconstruction. Every revised trace, every whispered debrief, every midnight simulator stint turns abstract milliseconds into drama you can almost feel through the screen. Whether you cheer for the 7-time champion rewriting himself or for the homegrown ace determined to stay ahead, the subplot transforms each Grand Prix into a living lab of neuroplasticity at 300 km per hour. So when the timing screens flash purple or fade to grey, don't just stare at the gap. Watch the contour of the brake curve, the tilt of the steering correction, the quiet proof that instinct can evolve. Because in Formula One, transformation doesn't only happen to carbon and titanium. It happens painfully and brilliantly to the humans brave enough to drive them. When Hamilton finally synchronizes mind, muscle and machine, the stopwatch will gasp, the paddock will hush, and a brand new chapter will write itself across the scarlet pages of racing history. Until then, every lap is the most compelling cliffhanger in the sport.